Hi, dear beloveds. This is Dr. Lenore Murciano Luna, and I want to talk to you all about the conscious feminine medicine that I know a lot of you have subscribed to, and it's been a few months since I have been on here, and so I want to thank you first of all for subscribing to this channel. And I'm really inspired to talk about some of the messages that are now really been intensified and that are coming through about the feminine, about this whole feminine revolution that we're in, that we're facing, not just on the outer, but really on the inner. It's really an inner process that's happening. And this whole feminine evolution is really about how we, women and men, of course, but I'm speaking particularly to the women on the planet at this time, are evolving our own feminine soul as also the feminine soul for the planet. And this is really about our evolution. It's about awakening, and it's about really receiving her medicine at this time. And so I want to dedicate these talks to really be and discuss and bring about some awareness to what these messages are that are now coming through within our own hearts from the feminine, so that we can actually step into and embody more of our own divinity, more of our own essence, and bring through this evolution of our feminine soul. So I'm going to start. I want to read a poem that I have, and that is in one of the latest journals that I wrote, which is The Evolution of the Feminine Soul. And I want to start with that. So just tune into your heart for a couple of minutes. And it's welcoming the return of my feminine soul. The time has come to awaken and realize the truth of my being. The truth that I am magnificent beyond belief. The time is here to break out of the spell of limitation and separation and detach from my limited, separated identity. This is the time to realize the wholeness of my divinity. I welcome the evolution of my feminine soul. And just take a couple of minutes to just actually tune into your heart and breathe into your heart. And as I open up some of the messages that I want to share with you today, part of this whole process of really embodying our feminine that we've been disconnected from for such a long time is about not just having a new concept or a new idea or engaging just our mental facility, but also really this process of feeling and experiencing these concepts in our body, through our body, including our body. And so this is what we call embodiment. And so this whole feminine spirituality, this whole feminine revolution that's happening, that I want to speak to, that's taken place on the inner realms first, before it can actually take place on the outer realms, is all about really stepping into our embodiment of this. So it's not just a nice idea. It's actually transforming whatever's in the way of us being able to live this idea or ideal. So if we're talking about our divinity, for example, like I just mentioned, it's more about and really living and knowing our divinity. It's not just knowing it in our heads, but actually, how do we know that in our hearts? How do we transform all of the places in our heart that does not know our divinity, that really sees ourselves and acts as if we're separate and limited? And so we've lived lifetimes in that separation. And really, this evolution of our feminine soul is about now bridging ourselves as human beings, being human, being in our separation and our limitation, but then also being in the aspect of our being, which is really living in our divinity, but right here, right in our bodies, right in form. Right? It's bridging our form with our formlessness. And that's part of this whole evolution that's happening now. That's happening on our planet. That's happening within us. And this is what we're awakening to. And so this process, as we're moving through and transforming, if we so choose to, and obviously if you're on this channel, it's all about the transformation of our souls, really, so that we can live in that experience of peace, and live in that limitless love, and live in that joy, but all sourced from within, not sourced from without ourselves. Learning how to really tap into all of those universal qualities that is part of our divinity and that we're carrying. That is the treasure, that's the jewel that we carry in our hearts. And this hasn't been something that we've learned to do in our upbringing, or that we've learned to do, or that even our caregivers before us really had a really good handle on. And so this is the awakening that we're all being subjected to if we choose to. This is the evolution of our being. This is the next step in humanity, where we're again becoming one with our form and our formlessness, with our duality that we live in this world, in this 3D world of form, and our divinity, where we're learning how to access that and how to break through some of the limitations. And why do we want to do that? Well, we want to do that mainly because in the separation is where we've been experiencing most of our pain and most of our suffering. It comes from our experience, our perception of who we are, what we've become used to thinking. When we think of ourselves, we think usually of ourselves in this limited form, in this identity, in our roles that we play: mother, girlfriend, daughter, business executive, massage therapist, teacher, intellect. So there's all of those are roles. None of that is who we are. And so learning how to really identify first with who we are in our essence. Who are we? What is our essence? What does that even mean? How do we even feel that? And really experiencing that, not just knowing it, because a lot of you know the concepts. We've been learning about these concepts for a very long time. That's part of spirituality. And the way that spirituality has been given to us or shown to us till now has been in a conceptual way, where we learn about these concepts and then we meditate, or we do a lot of positive thinking, or we work to really shift our thoughts. But what we're talking about here is to take that even further, to take that into a feminine embodiment of that, a feminine aspect where it's about feeling that and using our bodies, our feminine bodies that have carried so much pain and suffering, so that we can actually clear ourselves and transform all of that old pain, all of that judgment, all of that criticism, all of that shame, and elevate our physical form to this level of sacredness that it really is. Because honestly, that is what our form is, what continues to birth life into this level of form, into this planet, into the world that we live in. It's very sacred. And so going back to the question as to why we want to evolve our feminine soul, really it's because it's really who you are, and it's really where we can find these things that we yearn for in our heart. The things like peace and love and true joy from our soul, the joy that really fulfills us, not the fleeting joy of having new things or of, perhaps having new experiences on the outer, but the deep fulfillment that I think most of us um, are looking for. And of course, with that comes the end of our suffering. It comes the end of our being ruled by fear, by shame, by anger, and by rage. And some of these feelings that we've unconsciously given power to, and not realizing that we have the power and the choice to tune inward and discover this jewel. And not just discover it, because I think on many levels intellectually we know that it's there. We know that we are the breath of the divine. But it's like, how do we actually embody that? How do we move from a nice concept to an actual embodiment of that, and an actual living from the space of limitless love and limitless compassion and mercy and understanding? And so that's some of the teachings that I'd like to share with you. I've been really receiving a lot of this and tuning in, and also because of the work that I've been doing with women over the last 22 years, I believe it is now. I've really seen and been shown some of the underlining patterns and wounds, and so that we're all dealing with, that we're all becoming aware of. And this whole concept of conscious feminine medicine is really about the medicine that each one of us not only carries in our heart to free ourselves, but now as the paradigm on the planet is really coming through. Like, the feminine is really being anchored in those of us that are willing to awaken to that are willing to actually go through also all of the shadows that we have, that we've created within ourselves, that we've repressed and we've put away because we think, that if we don't look at that, then we won't be in pain and in suffering. But in actuality, that is a doorway that leads to our taking our power back and moving into our sovereignty. And so I really wanted to just really thank all of you for being here and listening to me today, and for also signing up and subscribing to the Conscious Feminine Medicine channel. And I invite you to tune in. I will be doing these talks more often and really engaging all of you and in what this whole evolution of our feminine soul is. And so I encourage feedback and comments, and if you want more information, you can also find me at consciousfemininemedicine.com. Thank you very much. Blessings.